Hi, is the microphone working? Sounds like it, maybe. So, real interesting science talks this morning, and I learned a lot about oxygen modeling and all the strengths and weaknesses of those. It was really an interesting panel. These agency talks, when I think about them, I try and imagine some things you guys might be interested in, and then I put them up there and go through a list of things, and I always feel like it's a little bit dry and like, are we really answering the questions you guys want? Maybe are we speaking too much in government gobbledygook speech? So what I'm going to do this time, Hedy and I agreed we'll just have one slide with some ideas of things we could talk about, and I want you guys, someone to say something up there they want to hear about. So something that's interesting to you. So we have the NSF 10 big ideas, coastlines and people, changes happening in OC office, budget stuff, new ships, and proposal compliance. So take your pick. Raise your hand if you see something you want us to talk about.
So Mike, this is Ben Twani from Bigelow. This is not on your list, so maybe it's not fair game.
It's about your proposal?
But it's about the idea machine, which I get so many emails about. Can you talk about NSF's, I think it's called the idea machine? Is that the right term? Well, I think it's for the next 10 big ideas, right? But I'm just curious about that.
Okay. I don't know much about that, but it is one of the 10 big ideas, and it is part of what's called NSF 2026. And they are trying to brainstorm what could be ideas and directions for science in the future. And what's that?
Sorry, it's like the next 10 big ideas.
Or 10 bigger ideas or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I don't know what kind of emails you're getting, but there is a competition going on. I'm only partially involved with that, so I don't know much more than that.
I don't have anything useful to add.
Hi there, this is Patty again. Can you please talk about COPE and explain how big the P needs to be?
Well, COPE is an initiative coming out of the GeoFront office to examine questions and problems around coastlines and people with the knowledge that human activity is increasing on the coast and what kind of impacts that'll be having for, and thinking about from the geo perspective. So it might fall out a little bit from programs in the past in geo, like geohazards and geoprevents, where they were looking at events and things that happen on the coast. Right now, there's a Dear Colleague letter out on asking sort of a community building exercise, which started last year with a bunch of workshops nationally. I think they had 4 workshops around the country to brainstorm ideas, and their white papers produced. And there's a Dear Colleague letter now for targeted workshops, research coordination networks, and eagers to start community building, I guess, and sort of get the thing rolling with the idea that it will be, if plans go as they hope, they'll have more money for it next year in terms of real proposals.
I guess one answer I would give to that question is, if you spend a lot of time worrying about whether your thing fits, it's going to happen and you won't have thrown your idea in the pot. So anytime there's one of these calls for workshops or RCNs or anything, and you think you have anything that might fit, especially at these early stages, it's not the effort level of preparing a full proposal right from the get-go. So you might as well put something in and try to drive that train where you want it to go. Because otherwise it's going to get driven and the money's going to get spent. So we might as well get some biogeochemistry there.
Debbie
Yeah.
Bronk, Bigelow Laboratory. Has Don's replacement been named, the new section head?
God help us. No. I'll speak to that one since that person will be my direct supervisor. That decision has apparently is in process. We had interviews, but I mean, like, we had interviews and then our relatively new division director has forwarded a recommendation sort of through the channels. But boy, are they keeping that under wraps. And I mean, I was on the search committee and I don't know. It'll be someone good. Yeah, it's still very much under wraps. I did the job for 4 months. Candace Major did the job for 4 months. Debbie Smith has been doing it for 4 months. And we're really hoping to get the new person in soon.
So can I just follow up on the COPE thing? Can you say a few words about how you could envision that this group would fit within COPE? Because that's something I've had a really hard time when I read the first descriptions of the program. So maybe you have like some broad ideas about where you see this group fitting in. That would be really helpful.
So I'll fully admit to probably having read a little bit less than you have even, because it's been a really busy year. But for instance, one of the first internal town halls that I went to about it, that was before all the 4 big workshops last year. And I said, gosh, all the things that are being put up as examples, even though you're saying they're non-restrictive, they're all about physical hazards. What about coastal hypoxia? What about coastal acidification? All these sorts of things. I said, oh, yeah, it's all there, and it can be. So those are all things. I mean, eutrophication, hypoxia, acidification, coastal ecosystems, ecosystem services, that could all be part of COPE.
So that just sounds like that has a lot to do with fish and resources, like we extract, if you have to have the people part. I mean...
Well, so I don't think those were things that the people are doing to the coast, right? Instead of maybe the impacts on the people. I don't think any of this has to be one direction.
Yeah, Tom Kelly from Florida State University. And being on the Gulf Coast, there's been a lot of talk and discussion with colleagues and friends. And I'd love to hear any updates on the RCRV search and where the 2 new vessels might be going.
So they're okay with the RCRV, that's the regional class research vessel, which Congress has appropriated money to build 3. The first one's in construction. They will be coming out in a stagger of 6 months. So all of a sudden in around 2020, 2021, there will be 3 new ships, which
Claire will have better info. Yeah.
And then they will go into sea trials. But 2023. Well, when are they available for science, I guess was
Okay.
when I was getting.
Hopefully I'll get the schedule right. Hi, I'm Claire Reimers, and I'm the project scientist for the RCRV project. OSU is leading the construction for NSF of these next 3 vessels. And as was said, the first one is under construction in Houma, Louisiana. It's the RV Tani. It will be operated by Oregon State. The second vessel's operator has been selected. It's the East Coast Consortium, led by University of Rhode Island. And the operator of the third vessel, which is expected to operate in the Gulf Coast, has not been selected yet. That's a process undergoing at NSF. The vessels will be delivered, as was said, about 6 months apart. And after deliveries, there'll be approximately 1-year periods of science trials. And actually, I did want to give a shout out that we're starting to put together some teams that would be interested in participating in the science trials, particularly if you're interested in being on all 3 vessels, if you're particularly expert in some of the shipboard systems like an EK80 or some such system, multi-beam, you name it. So we will be putting together these teams, but in terms of scheduling, UNO's designation for the first vessel, I believe, is actually not till 2024. And then, again, they follow 6 months apart. So there is going to be some periods where vessels like, for instance, Oceanus on the west coast is going to be retired at the end of 2020, and there will not be a vessel operating. Presumably the same could happen with Endeavour. This is up to NSF, and the ship demand. But it's a long process to get through construction, complete builders and science trials, and into operation.
What size is it?
Thank you, Claire.
The length is 199 feet. And they take 16 scientists, 13 crew.
So we don't want to eat the time of our sister agencies. Should we
That's about it.
turn over to, that's the end of our 10. But we're here.
Okay, if you
All
have
week,
questions
so
for
yeah.
us that we didn't address, please. And clearly, I was way off on my idea of what you would be interested in.